My name is Chloe Bennett, and at 32, I still remember how differently my parents treated my graduation compared to my sister Ashley's. While they funded her entire education and bought her a brand new car to celebrate, I worked 3 jobs, took out loans, and rode the bus to my ceremony. The irony? When they called out the recipient of the highest university honor that day, my name echoed through the speakers. Before I share how everything changed that day, let me know where you are watching from and tap that subscribe button if you have ever felt underestimated. Trust me, the moment my name echoed through those speakers changed everything. Growing up in Oak Ridge, a middle-class suburban town in Massachusetts, the signs of favoritism were subtle at first. Our home was comfortable, not luxurious, with 4 bedrooms and a backyard where neighborhood kids gathered for summer barbecues. My parents, David and Karen Bennett, were hard-working people with traditional values. Dad worked as an accountant at a local firm, while Mom taught 3rd grade at the elementary school 3 blocks from our house. From as early as I can remember, I was the responsible one. Being 4 years older than Ashley meant I was expected to set the example, to be mature, to understand. When Ashley was born, the dynamic shifted in ways my 8-year-old self could not fully comprehend. Suddenly, my academic achievements became expected rather than celebrated, while Ashley received praise for the smallest accomplishments. Mom and Ashley shared an instant bond that I never experienced. They had the same laugh, the same golden brown hair that curled at the ends, the same social butterfly personality that drew people in. I inherited Dad's more reserved nature and analytical mind, but even he seemed captivated by Ashley in ways he never was with me. When I brought home straight A's in 5th grade, Mom glanced at my report card and said, "That's what we expect from you, Chloe." That same week, Ashley received a participation award in her kindergarten dance recital, and they took her out for ice cream and bought her a new dress. I sat in the back seat of our family sedan, quietly watching as they celebrated her participation, while my achievement collected dust on the refrigerator. For my 12th birthday, I received practical gifts: a scientific calculator, a desk lamp, and a planner. For Ashley at the same age, they threw a surprise party with 20 friends at the local skating rink and gave her the portable CD player I had been asking for all year. Despite the uneven attention, I found solace in books and learning. By 13, I knew I wanted to pursue biochemistry. The complexity of molecular structures fascinated me, and I spent hours in the school library reading advanced science materials. My 8th grade science teacher, Mrs. Davis, was the first person who truly recognized my potential. She stayed after school to discuss scientific journals with me and recommended summer programs for gifted students in STEM fields. "You have a brilliant mind, Chloe," she told me once. "Never let anyone dim your light." Those words became my mantra during difficult family moments, like when my parents missed my science fair win because Ashley had a minor role in the school play the same evening. I stood alone, accepting my first place certificate, while other parents took photos and celebrated with their children. High school only widened the gap. I graduated as valedictorian with a perfect 4.0 GPA and acceptance letters from several prestigious universities. My graduation party was a small gathering in our backyard, with a homemade cake. 3 years later, Ashley graduated with a 3.2 GPA and a social circle 3 times the size of mine. Her graduation celebration was a catered event at a local country club, where my parents proudly introduced her to everyone as their social butterfly headed for great things. While the contrast hurt, I had learned to build my own support system outside our family. Mrs. Davis attended my graduation, along with my best friend Olivia and her parents, who had become like a second family to me. Their genuine pride in my accomplishments helped soothe the sting of my parents' divided attention. My passion for biochemistry grew stronger through high school, especially after completing a summer internship at the local community college lab. I discovered my interest in developing treatments for rare diseases after reading about families struggling to find cures for their children. That purpose gave me direction and strengthened my resolve to pursue higher education, despite knowing the financial challenges ahead. The night of my high school graduation, as I sat alone on our porch swing looking at my acceptance letters, I made a promise to myself that I would succeed, regardless of the support I received. Little did I know how that determination would be tested in the years to come. The college acceptance letters arrived during my final semester of high school. Harvard, Stanford, MIT, and Princeton all wanted me, each offering partial academic scholarships that recognized my perfect GPA and research potential. I had allowed myself to dream about these possibilities for years, imagining laboratories with cutting-edge equipment and professors who could mentor me toward breakthroughs in disease treatment. The family meeting about college funding happened on a Sunday afternoon in April. I entered our living room with printouts of financial information, scholarship details, and a carefully prepared presentation about the remaining costs. Ashley, then a freshman in high school, sprawled across the couch texting friends while Mom and Dad sat stiffly in their matching armchairs. "We need to discuss how much we can contribute to your education," Dad began, adjusting his glasses in that nervous way he did when conversations turned to money. I nodded, sliding my neatly organized folder across the coffee table. "I have all the information here. With the scholarships I've secured, we would need about $15,000 per year for MIT, which is my top choice. I can also work part-time to help with expenses." Mom and Dad exchanged uncomfortable glances before Mom spoke. "Chloe, we have put aside $40,000 total for your college education. That's all we can offer." The number hit me like a physical blow. $40,000 would barely cover 1 year at any of the prestigious universities that had accepted me. My careful plans began crumbling as I did the mental calculations. "But the college fund," I said, my voice smaller than intended. "You both always talked about the college fund for both of us." Dad cleared his throat. "We need to be practical. The fund has grown, but with the cost of education these days, we have to make difficult decisions. We believe you're capable of figuring this out. You've always been our responsible one." "What about Ashley?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. Mom brightened instantly. "Well, Ashley is different. She'll need more support to succeed. We plan to fully fund her education when her time comes." The injustice of it burned through me. "So you're saying that because I worked hard and earned scholarships, I get less support, and because Ashley hasn't demonstrated the same academic focus, she gets more?" "That's not what we're saying," Dad replied defensively. "We're acknowledging that you and your sister have different strengths and needs. You've always been independent and resourceful." I sat in stunned silence as they continued explaining their decision. Behind their words, the message was clear. My academic success had become a justification for withholding support rather than a reason to invest in my potential. That night, I cried silently into my pillow, careful not to let anyone hear. The betrayal cut deeper than I had words for. The universities that had recognized my potential now seemed like distant stars I could no longer reach. The next morning, I called Mrs. Davis, my voice still raw from crying. "Oh, Chloe," she said after I explained the situation. "I am so sorry. This is not fair to you. What should I do?" I asked, feeling lost for the first time in my academic journey. "Come to my house this afternoon. We're going to figure this out together." Mrs. Davis and her husband, a financial aid counselor at the community college, helped me navigate new options. State University had a strong biochemistry program and had offered me a full tuition scholarship. While it lacked the prestige and research opportunities of my dream schools, it offered a debt-free path forward. I secured a job as a campus library assistant that would start 2 weeks before classes, and found affordable off-campus housing with 3 roommates. The apartment was small, with peeling paint and unreliable heating, but the rent fit my tight budget. Meanwhile, Ashley casually mentioned at dinner that she wanted to attend UCLA someday because they have the cutest campus and it's always sunny in California. Mom immediately began researching housing options near UCLA, talking excitedly about visiting the campus together. The summer before college began, I worked 2 jobs, saving every penny for books and supplies. At a family dinner in August, Mom proudly announced they had already set aside $80,000 for Ashley's future education. She didn't seem to notice how I froze mid-bite, the unfairness of it stealing my appetite. The day I moved into my apartment, Dad drove me in his pickup truck, helped carry my few belongings upstairs, and awkwardly patted my shoulder before leaving. "You'll be fine, Chloe." "You always figure things out," he said. His standard line that once felt like confidence in my abilities now sounded like an excuse to provide less. Standing alone in my cramped room with second-hand furniture, I promised myself their lack of support would not define my future. I taped my acceptance letters from Harvard and MIT to my wall as reminders of what others saw in me, even if my own parents didn't. My first semester at State University established a grueling pattern that would continue for the next 4 years. My typical Monday began at 5:30 in the morning for a 6 to 9 shift at the campus coffee shop, before rushing to organic chemistry at 9:30. Between classes, I worked at the library, often eating lunch standing up while reshelving books. Evenings were split between study groups and my weekend job at a local restaurant, where I worked Friday through Sunday nights as a server. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. 4 or 5 hours a night was my norm, with caffeine sustaining me through the day. Dark circles became a permanent feature under my eyes, and I kept a strict budget that allowed for no spontaneity or indulgence. Meanwhile, Ashley's high school years continued in a bubble of parental support and enthusiasm. During holiday breaks, I would return home to hear endless stories about her social achievements and extracurricular activities. My parents had installed a countdown calendar to her graduation in the kitchen, something they had never done for me. The contrast between our lives became painfully clear during my sophomore year Christmas break. I arrived home exhausted after working a double shift to afford the bus ticket, carrying a single backpack with my belongings. Ashley bounced around the house, showing off her new clothes, electronics, and jewelry, accumulated from months of parental indulgence. "Look at my new laptop," she gushed, displaying a top-of-the-line MacBook Pro. "Mom and Dad got it early because I need it for school projects." I thought of my 5-year-old refurbished laptop that frequently overheated during the research analyses I ran for my advanced biochemistry courses. When it had broken the previous semester, I had taken on extra shifts for 3 weeks to afford repairs, rather than asking my parents for help. My Christmas gifts that year consisted of a pack of highlighters, a planner, and a gift card for the campus bookstore, with just enough to cover one textbook. Ashley received an iPhone, designer clothes, and concert tickets. When I returned to campus after break, the weight of the disparity settled heavily on me. For the first time, I considered dropping out. What was the point of pushing myself to exhaustion when no one in my family seemed to value my efforts? My roommate Megan found me sitting on our couch that night, staring blankly at my financial aid forms for the upcoming semester. "Whoa, you look like you've seen a ghost," she said, dropping her backpack and sitting beside me. "What's going on?" I rarely discussed my family situation, preferring to focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on things I could not change. But that night, the dam broke. I told Megan everything about the differential treatment, the financial struggles, and the growing resentment I tried so hard to suppress. Megan listened without interrupting, then wrapped me in a tight hug. "I admire you so much," she said. "You are 10 times stronger than I would be in your situation. And for what it's worth, I see how brilliant you are, even if your family doesn't." That friendship became my lifeline. Megan, a psychology major from a working-class family, understood struggle in ways my sister never would. We created study schedules together, shared meals to save money, and propped each other up during our lowest moments. During my junior year, I met Professor Miller, who would become another crucial supporter. After I scored highest in his advanced biochemical analysis course, he invited me to his office. "Miss Bennett," he said, peering at me over his glasses, "your lab work shows exceptional precision and insight. Are you considering graduate studies?" I explained my financial situation honestly, including how I was working 3 jobs to afford my current education. Professor Miller leaned back in his chair, considering me thoughtfully. "There's a research assistant position opening in my lab next semester. It comes with a stipend and would look excellent on graduate school applications. I'd like you to apply." That position changed everything. Not only did it pay better than my other jobs, allowing me to drop the restaurant work, but it provided hands-on experience in the field I loved. I spent hours in the lab developing protocols for testing new compounds that showed promise for treating rare genetic disorders. My academic recognition began accumulating. I won the department's Junior Researcher Award, had my name included on a published paper with Professor Miller, and received an invitation to present at an undergraduate research conference. When I called home to share these accomplishments, Mom answered distractedly. "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Ashley was nominated for Homecoming Queen? We're so excited. I need to take her shopping for a dress this weekend." I learned to share my successes with the people who genuinely celebrated them. Megan and our small circle of friends threw me a surprise party when my research was published. Professor Miller mentored me through graduate school applications and wrote glowing recommendation letters. The ultimate test of our family's disparate treatment came when both Ashley and I applied for the same prestigious summer internship at North Star Pharmaceuticals. The company had a connection to State University through alumni, but also recruited from UCLA, where Ashley had recently been accepted with full parental funding. I spent weeks refining my application, preparing my research portfolio, and practicing interview responses with Professor Miller. Ashley mentioned applying almost as an afterthought during a family phone call, saying she might as well try since it paid really well. When the acceptance email arrived in my inbox, the validation was sweeter than I could have imagined. I had earned the spot based solely on my merits, competing against students from elite universities nationwide. Ashley called that evening, her voice tight with uncharacteristic tension. "Did you hear about the North Star internship results?" "I did," I replied carefully. "I received an offer today." "Well, I didn't," she said sharply. "It's probably because you had connections through your professor." That's not really fair. The accusation stung, but I recognized it as a defense mechanism from someone unaccustomed to academic disappointment. For perhaps the first time in her life, Ashley was experiencing what it felt like to work for something and not receive it simply because she was Ashley. "The selection was based on qualifications and experience," I said gently. "There will be other opportunities." "Whatever," she replied before hanging up. That moment marked a subtle shift in our dynamic. While my parents continued their pattern of differential treatment, I had begun finding recognition in the wider world that affirmed what I had always believed about myself. My path was harder, but I was building something genuinely mine, brick by painstaking brick. My senior year began as Ashley was starting her freshman year at UCLA. My parents had driven her across the country, spending 2 weeks helping her settle into a premium single-dorm room they had paid extra to secure. They sent me photos of her fully furnished space, complete with new bedding, a mini refrigerator, and decorative touches that transformed the institutional room into a stylish living space. I remembered my own move-in day 3 years earlier, when my dad had deposited me at my shared apartment with a $20 bill and advice to be careful with money. I had slept on a second-hand mattress on the floor for the first month, until I could afford a bed frame. The fall semester brought news that my parents had purchased a brand new Toyota Camry for Ashley as an early graduation gift, despite her being 3.5 years from completing her degree. "She needs reliable transportation in Los Angeles," Mom explained during our monthly phone call. "We worry about her safety using public transportation." I big back the observation that I had been navigating public transportation in a city with snowy winters for years without similar concern. Instead, I redirected the conversation to my research progress, which Mom acknowledged with distracted hums before returning to Ashley's sorority rush week stories. 2 weeks later, I overheard a conversation that would crystallize the lifetime of differential treatment. I had called Dad to discuss graduate school applications, but he had apparently answered accidentally without realizing. I could hear him and Mom discussing finances in the background. "We really need to start setting aside something for Chloe's graduation," Mom was saying. "It's only 1 semester away." "What did we do for Ashley's high school graduation?" Dad asked. "We gave her the pearl necklace and took everyone to that nice restaurant downtown," Mom replied. "But this is college graduation. It should be more significant." "Well, we can't do much with the car payments for Ashley's Toyota and the extra housing costs at UCLA." Dad sighed. "Maybe we can get Chloe a nice watch. Something professional for job interviews." "That seems reasonable," Mom agreed. "She's practical anyway." She would probably prefer something useful over a celebration. I hung up silently, their words confirming what I had always felt but tried to deny. They had never expected to celebrate my achievements with the same enthusiasm they showed Ashley. In their minds, I didn't need or deserve the same level of support or recognition. Rather than letting this realization crush me, something shifted inside. I stopped seeking their approval entirely. I stopped sharing my accomplishments or calling home except when absolutely necessary. Instead, I channeled my energy into my future. My breakthrough came in October, when my research team identified a promising compound that showed effectiveness against a protein linked to a rare genetic disorder. Professor Miller was ecstatic. "This is extraordinary work, Chloe," he said, reviewing our data. "This level of research is rarely accomplished, even at the graduate level." The department head, Dr. Evans, took notice. She invited me to present our findings at the university's Research Symposium, an honor typically reserved for graduate students and faculty. "Your work shows exceptional promise," she told me after my presentation. "Have you considered applying for the Rosenberg Award?" The Rosenberg Award was the university's highest honor, given annually to one graduating student who demonstrated extraordinary academic achievement and research contributions. It came with a substantial $10,000 prize and recognition at graduation. In the 20-year history of the award, only 3 undergraduates had ever received it. With Professor Miller's encouragement, I submitted my application, including comprehensive documentation of my research contributions, academic record, and the financial challenges I had overcome to pursue my education. Meanwhile, Ashley's first semester struggles became the central focus of family conversations. She had failed 2 classes and was considering changing her major for the 3rd time. My parents responded by hiring private tutors and flying out twice to provide emotional support. When I mentioned my nomination for the Rosenberg Award during a rare call home, my mother's response was painfully predictable. "That's nice, honey, but when will you get a real job? These academic honors don't pay the bills." I stopped explaining that the research I was doing had real-world applications that could lead to treatments for children suffering from rare diseases. I stopped trying to make them understand the value of my work. The final month of the fall semester, I secretly applied for my dream position at Biogen Therapeutics, a cutting-edge pharmaceutical company known for its work on rare disease treatments. The job would require relocation across the country and offered a salary that would finally free me from financial stress. 2 weeks before graduation, a large envelope arrived in my campus mailbox. The return address made my heart race. The Rosenberg Award Committee. Inside was a formal letter congratulating me on being selected as this year's recipient, with instructions to keep the news confidential until the official announcement at graduation. I stood in the mailroom, tears blurring my vision as I read and reread the letter. After years of working in the shadows, unnoticed by those who should have been my biggest supporters, this validation felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. For once, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of my accomplishment without diminishing it or telling myself it didn't matter. That night, I called Megan, Professor Miller, and Mrs. Davis to share my news with the people who had truly seen me all along. Their genuine excitement and pride washed away some of the lingering hurt from years of parental indifference. As graduation approached, I received another letter, this one from Biogen Therapeutics, offering me a position as a research associate with a salary nearly twice what I had expected for an entry-level position. The letter mentioned specifically that my research on protein inhibitors had impressed their senior scientists. I would later learn that Professor Miller had sent my research directly to the head of their rare disease division, along with a personal recommendation highlighting not only my scientific abilities, but also the determination I had shown in pursuing my education against significant odds. These twin achievements remained my secret as graduation day approached. Let my parents and sister believe what they always had about me. The world was beginning to see something very different. Graduation morning dawned clear and cold. I awoke at 5:30, my body still programmed for early shifts despite having taken the week off from all my jobs to prepare for final exams and graduation. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtains of my apartment bedroom. I laid out my graduation attire, the simple black dress I had found on clearance, the cap and gown I had saved for months to purchase, and the honor cords I had earned through 4 years of perfect grades. While my classmates posted photos of family brunches and pre-graduation celebrations on social media, I made myself a simple breakfast of oatmeal and coffee. I had received a text from my parents the night before, informing me they would be arriving with Ashley just before the ceremony began. They had flown her home from UCLA specifically for my graduation, but their message made it clear they would be rushed, coming directly from the airport to the auditorium. I checked the bus schedule and gathered my things. The number 7 bus would get me to campus with an hour to spare, enough time to find my place in the procession and prepare mentally for the day ahead. As I waited at the bus stop, my phone rang with a call from Professor Miller. "Chloe," he said when I answered, his voice vibrating with an energy I rarely heard from my typically composed mentor. "I just wanted to wish you congratulations before the chaos of the day begins." "Thank you," I replied, warming at his thoughtfulness. "For everything. I wouldn't be here without your guidance." While my classmates posted photos of family brunches and pre-graduation celebrations on social media, I made myself a simple breakfast of oatmeal and coffee. I had received a text from my parents the night before, informing me they would be arriving with Ashley just before the ceremony began. They had flown her home from UCLA specifically for my graduation, but their message made it clear they would be rushed, coming directly from the airport to the auditorium. His cryptic tone made me wonder if he knew something I didn't. But before I could ask, he wished me good luck and ended the call. The campus buzzed with excitement as I made my way toward the auditorium. Families in their Sunday best clustered around graduating seniors, taking photos and presenting bouquets. I wove through them, acutely aware of my solitary status, until I heard someone calling my name. Megan ran toward me, her parents following with warm smiles. She threw her arms around me in a tight hug. "We came to cheer for you," Mom and Dad insisted. Megan's parents embraced me as if I were their own daughter. Her mother pressed a small gift box into my hands. "A little something to mark the occasion," she said kindly. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a charm shaped like a microscope. The thoughtfulness of the gift from a family with their own financial constraints brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered, slipping it onto my wrist where it caught the morning light. As we approached the auditorium, I spotted my family near the entrance. Ashley stood at the center of attention as always, holding a bundle of graduation balloons and chatting animatedly with a group of my classmates she had just met. My parents flanked her, nodding along to whatever story she was telling. I approached slowly, observing them before they noticed me. Mom had worn her special occasion dress, the one she had also worn to Ashley's high school graduation. Dad looked uncomfortable in his only suit. Neither of them was carrying anything that might be a gift or card. "There she is!" Ashley called when she finally spotted me. "The graduate herself!" My parents turned, offering smiles that seemed more obligatory than joyful. Mom gave me a quick hug, careful not to wrinkle her dress. "Congratulations, honey," she said. "You look nice." Dad nodded in agreement. "Big day. You must be relieved to be finished." Ashley thrust the balloons toward me. "These are for you." Mom and Dad got them at the airport gift shop. I accepted the balloons, noting the generic "Congratulations, Graduate" printed on them. identical to dozens of others visible throughout the crowd. It was clear they had been an afterthought, purchased in haste when they realized they should arrive with something. "Thank you," I said, then introduced them to Megan and her parents. As the families exchanged pleasantries, I noticed several of my professors approaching, their formal academic regalia standing out among the crowd. Dr. Evans, the department head, reached us first. "Miss Bennett," she said warmly, "I wanted to personally congratulate you before the ceremony." She turned to my parents with a bright smile. "You must be incredibly proud. Your daughter has made quite an impression on our entire department." My parents exchanged glances of surprise. "Oh, yes," Mom said quickly, "very proud." Professor Miller arrived next, followed by 2 other science faculty members who had supervised different aspects of my research. They formed a small semicircle around me, each offering congratulations and inside references to our work together that clearly mystified my family. "We should find our seats," Dad said uncomfortably as the conversation continued over his head. "Actually," Dr. Evans interjected, "we need to borrow Chloe for a moment before the procession begins. Department business." She guided me away from my confused family toward a quiet corner where several university officials had gathered, including the university president. My heart began racing as I realized this must be related to the Rosenberg Award. "Everything is arranged," Dr. Evans told me quietly. "When your name is called for the award, just approach the podium from the graduate seating area. The president will present the award and an invitation to speak." "Invitation to speak?" I repeated, panic rising. "I didn't prepare anything." She squeezed my shoulder reassuringly. "Just speak from the heart. Your journey speaks for itself." As we prepared to line up for the procession, I caught a glimpse of my family taking their seats. Ashley was already on her phone, clearly bored by the proceedings. My parents sat stiffly, looking out of place among the enthusiastic families around them. The ceremony began with traditional pomp and circumstance, graduates filing in as proud families cheered and took photos. From my seat among the biochemistry department graduates, I could just make out my family in the audience. Unlike the parents around them who were eagerly scanning for their children, my parents seemed detached from the ceremony, with Mom occasionally leaning over to whisper something to Ashley. The university president welcomed everyone and began his address, but I barely heard his words. My mind raced with the realization that in a short time, everything would change. Whatever happened today, I would no longer be the overlooked daughter, the responsible one, expected to manage without support. One way or another, they would finally see me. The conferring of degrees proceeded alphabetically by department. As biochemistry approached, I felt a strange calm settling over me. Years of working without recognition had prepared me for this moment, though I had never imagined it would come in such a public way. When the president paused after the regular degrees and announced, "Before we continue, we have a special presentation to make," a curious murmur ran through the crowd. My heart began pounding so loudly, I wondered if the graduate seated beside me could hear it. Each year, the university presents the prestigious Rosenberg Award to one graduating student who has demonstrated extraordinary academic achievement and research contributions, the president continued. This year's recipient has maintained a perfect grade point average while conducting groundbreaking research that has already been recognized in the scientific community. I held my breath as he paused for effect. It is my great honor to present this year's Rosenberg Award to Chloe Bennett. The auditorium erupted in applause as my name echoed through the speakers. For a moment I sat frozen, the sound washing over me in waves. Then, Professor Miller, seated with the faculty, caught my eye and nodded encouragingly. I rose on legs that felt suddenly unsteady and made my way to the stage. As I climbed the steps, I caught a glimpse of my parents in the audience. Their expressions of utter shock might have been comical under different circumstances. Ashley had actually put down her phone and was staring open-mouthed at the stage. The university president shook my hand firmly as he presented me with an elegant plaque and an envelope containing the $10,000 award check. "Congratulations, Miss Bennett," he said, his voice amplified by the microphone. "Your work has the potential to change lives." Then he stepped aside, gesturing for me to take the podium. The sea of faces before me blurred slightly as I gathered my thoughts. I had not prepared for this moment, but suddenly, I knew exactly what needed to be said. "Thank you for this tremendous honor," I began, my voice stronger than I expected. "My journey to this stage has not been a traditional one. While many of my fellow graduates had the privilege of focusing solely on their studies, I worked 3 jobs throughout my time here, riding the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning to open the campus coffee shop, before heading to organic chemistry lectures." A ripple of surprised murmurs moved through the audience. I share this not to complain, but to offer hope to anyone facing obstacles in their education. What seems like a disadvantage can become your greatest strength. The discipline and resilience I developed working my way through college prepared me for the rigors of scientific research in ways I never anticipated. I paused, finding Megan's supportive face in the crowd before continuing. "I am deeply grateful to those who saw potential in me when I needed it most. Professor Miller, who mentored me with unwavering belief in my abilities. Dr. Evans and the biochemistry department, who provided opportunities that transformed my education. My roommate Megan and her family, who became my support system when I needed one most. I deliberately did not look toward my family as I continued. The research we conducted on protein inhibitors for rare genetic disorders represents just the beginning of what I hope will be a lifetime of meaningful work. Science has the power to alleviate suffering, and I am committed to using the knowledge and skills I have gained here to make a difference in the lives of patients and families affected by these conditions." I took a deep breath before delivering my final words. To anyone who has ever felt overlooked or underestimated, please know that your worth is not determined by others' recognition. It lives in your dedication, your integrity, and the impact your work has on the world. Thank you again for this honor, which I accept with deep gratitude and humility. The applause that followed was thunderous. As I returned to my seat, I noticed something unprecedented. Faculty members and students alike were giving me a standing ovation. Professor Miller beamed with pride, and Dr. Evans wiped away what looked suspiciously like a tear. The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it concluded, graduates streamed out of the auditorium to reunite with their families. I found myself surrounded not by relatives, but by professors and fellow research students, all eager to congratulate me. Someone from the university media team asked for an interview, and several industry representatives who had attended the ceremony handed me business cards. In the midst of this unexpected attention, the university president approached with a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit. "Miss Bennett, I would like to introduce Dr. Lawrence Chen, CEO of Biogen Therapeutics. He was quite impressed by your speech and asked to meet you. My eyes widened in recognition. Dr. Chen, it's an honor. I actually just accepted a position with your company last week, he smiled warmly. I know. I personally approved your hiring package after reviewing your research. We doubled the standard starting salary for someone of your experience level because we believe you are going to make significant contributions to our rare disease program. The president looked impressed. It seems your future is already taking shape brilliantly. As they moved on to greet other graduates, I finally spotted my family hovering uncertainly at the edge of the crowd that had formed around me. I excused myself from a conversation with fellow researchers and approached them. Mom spoke first, her voice unusually hesitant. Chloe, we had no idea. The award, the job offer. Why did you never tell us? I tried, I said simply. Many times. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We always knew you were smart, but this level of recognition is unexpected. For you, perhaps, I replied without hostility. Others have seen it for years. Ashley stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. How did you do all that while working 3 jobs? I can barely manage my classes with no job at all. The question seemed genuine. The first time she had ever expressed interest in my experience, rather than centering her own. One day at a time, I told her, and with a lot of help from people who believed in me. Mom glanced around at the faculty and industry professionals still waiting to speak with me. We thought we'd take you to dinner to celebrate, she said, clearly trying to reclaim some parental role in my achievement. Maybe that nice Italian place downtown. I considered the offer briefly before responding. Thank you, but I already have plans. Professor Miller and his wife are hosting a celebration for me and the other research students. Megan and her parents will be there too. Oh, Mom said, clearly disappointed. Well, perhaps another time. Perhaps, I agreed, not committing to anything specific. Ashley surprised me by asking quietly, could we talk sometime soon? About how you managed everything? I'm really struggling at UCLA and could use some advice. Her vulnerability was so unexpected that I found myself nodding. Call me next week. We can set up a time. As I prepared to rejoin my academic supporters, Dad cleared his throat. We're proud of you, Chloe. We always have been. I met his gaze directly. Thank you. But today I realized something important. While your pride means something to me, I no longer need it to know my worth. With those words, I turned and walked toward the people who had truly supported my journey, leaving my family to reflect on what they had missed by failing to see what was in front of them all along. The celebration at Professor Miller's home that evening was everything the family dinner would not have been. Surrounded by mentors and friends who understood the significance of my achievements, I felt truly seen and valued. When Professor Miller raised a toast to my future at Biogen, I realized I had found my true family in these connections forged through shared passion and mutual respect. As Megan and I walked home under a star-filled sky, she linked her arm through mine. So, how does it feel to have proven everyone wrong? I considered the question carefully. It feels less like proving others wrong and more like proving myself right. I always knew what I was capable of. Now everyone else knows, too. 2 years have passed since that transformative graduation day. At 32, looking back at that period of my life feels like watching a movie about someone else, though the lessons remain deeply embedded in who I have become. My position at Biogen Therapeutics quickly evolved from research associate to team leader, as my work on protein inhibitors showed promising results in preliminary trials. Last month, our team received approval to begin human trials on a treatment that could improve the quality of life for children with a previously untreatable genetic disorder. When I watch the videos of families who might benefit from our work, every late night in the lab and every struggle through college feels worthwhile. The financial stability I once dreamed of has become reality. I purchased my first home last year, a sunny condo near the research facility, with large windows that flood my living room with light each morning. The student loans that once kept me awake with anxiety have been fully repaid. For the first time in my life, I make decisions based on what I want rather than what I can afford. The journey to healing my relationship with my family has been complex and ongoing. The initial months after graduation were filled with awkward phone calls and tentative text messages, as my parents attempted to recalibrate our relationship in light of my success. Their congratulatory messages often felt like attempts to retroactively claim credit for achievements they had neither supported nor acknowledged. "We always knew you would do great things," Mom would say, conveniently forgetting the years of dismissal and differential treatment. "Your determination comes from your father." I struggled with anger at first, reliving moments of injustice and inequality that had shaped my childhood and young adult years. My therapist, Dr. Reynolds, helped me process these emotions without allowing them to consume me. "Forgiveness is not about excusing their behavior," she explained during one particularly difficult session. "It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment so you can fully embrace your present and future." Gradually, I established boundaries that allowed me to maintain family connections while protecting my emotional well-being. I limited visits to twice yearly and kept conversations focused on the present, rather than revisiting past hurts. When old patterns emerged, I learned to address them directly, rather than silently accepting the status quo. My relationship with Ashley evolved in unexpected ways. Our conversation after graduation led to several more, each progressively more honest than the last. After failing another semester at UCLA, she transferred to a smaller college closer to home, where she discovered a genuine interest in elementary education. "I spent so many years trying to be the social butterfly Mom wanted," she confessed during a rare sister lunch last summer. "I never figured out who I actually am, or what I actually enjoy. Watching you be so certain about your path made me realize how lost I've been." Those words helped heal a wound I had carried since childhood. The feeling that my sister had received not only more support, but also more love simply for being herself, while I had to earn every scrap of approval through achievement. My parents have made halting attempts at reconciliation, acknowledging in small ways the disparity in how they treated us. Dad called unexpectedly on the anniversary of my graduation. "I've been thinking about how differently we supported you and Ashley," he said, his voice unusually reflective. "At the time, we truly believed we were responding to your different needs. You seemed so capable, and she seemed to need more guidance. But I see now that we failed to recognize how our actions affected you. I'm sorry, Chloe." The apology, while imperfect, represented growth I had not thought possible. I accepted it with the understanding that it could not erase the past, but might help shape a healthier future. My experience has made me particularly attuned to the struggles of young scientists facing similar barriers. I established a mentorship program at Biogen specifically for students working their way through college without family support. Twice monthly, I meet with undergraduates from local universities, providing guidance on everything from research techniques to graduate school applications. Isabella, a biochemistry major supporting herself through night shifts at a 24-hour pharmacy, reminds me powerfully of my younger self. When she apologized for arriving at our mentoring session with dark circles under her eyes after working all night, I shared my own story of falling asleep in the library between jobs. "The path is harder," I told her, "but the strength you are building now will serve you throughout your career. And unlike my experience, you will not walk it alone." Last month, I was invited back to State University to deliver the commencement address, standing at the podium where I had accepted the Rosenberg Award. I looked out at the sea of graduates and saw myself reflected in their hopeful, anxious faces. "Success is not measured by the support you receive," I told them, "but by the obstacles you overcome and the impact you create. Some of you have walked a harder road than others to reach this day. Know that those struggles have forged in you qualities that no amount of privilege could provide: resilience, determination, and profound empathy for others facing similar challenges." After the ceremony, a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "Your story changed how I see my own struggles," she said. "I've been so angry about having to work while my roommates party. But today, I realize that what feels like a disadvantage now might become my greatest strength." In those moments, I find the deepest healing. The pain of my past has become purpose, transforming into a beacon for others navigating similar paths. The most profound lesson I have learned is that true success comes not from external validation or material rewards, but from living authentically and using your unique gifts to contribute meaningfully to the world. The car my sister received at graduation has long since been replaced, the balloons deflated and discarded. But the work I do each day touches lives in ways that will outlast any physical possession. If I could speak to my younger self standing alone at that bus stop on graduation morning, I would tell her, "The future is brighter than you can imagine. Your worth was never determined by how others valued you, but by how you persisted in valuing yourself when no one else did. The road ahead has challenges, but you have everything you need to face them already within you." What about you? Have you ever felt underestimated or overlooked, only to prove your worth through your own determination? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember that whatever challenges you are facing, they are shaping you into the person you are meant to become. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and growth, and share it with someone who might need to be reminded of their own strength today. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the greatest gift is not getting what you think you want, but discovering what you truly need.